They've used a lot of things. I've heard they would use fish bone. One account of the Powhatan Indians was that they would use antler and velvet and cook it down. The simplest way to make glue is to take either shave the epidermis off a hide when it's dry, or a lot of times what I'll do is when I have the hide up and I'm scraping off the hair, I'm careful to take the hair off without the epidermis, then get the hair out of the way, get it cleaned up, then scrape the epidermis off and save it, and then simmer it for maybe 3 hours. Pour the liquid into something else so that you have a clean, you leave behind the hide scraps and stuff.
Okay.
And then you simmer it, continue to simmer it until it's about the consistency of syrup. And once it reaches that consistency, it's ready to use. It's maximum strength.
And you were saying this glue is, like stronger than what we know. We think of carpenter's glue as being real strong, and this stuff.
I was told it's
carpenter's glue to
twice as strong as carpenter's glue, and I've heard that they had one glue they would make from a sturgeon's. There was a bone somewhere in here on a sturgeon that made an incredibly strong glue. I mean, way beyond what hide glue would be.
Now, is this an example where glue would be used? Is that?
Yes. This is sinew and hide glue. Anywhere, and the same thing is true on these arrows. This is sinew and hide glue. And then the end is reinforced. And the hide glue holds it down. And the strength of sinew is unbelievable.
When you say sinew, you're talking about the tendon material, or
the stuff that gets stuck between your teeth when you're eating a steak.
Okay. The gristle, if you will. There we go.
Well, not the gristle, but the tendon. The tendon material is very tough stuff, and it gets. There's 2 places on most animals where you can get pieces about this long. Like deer. On the deer, there's along the back. There's a piece about like this that's easy to use, and then down the back leg, there's a piece that goes down to the toes and comes up almost all the way to the hand.
Okay.
And so you get nice long pieces. It breaks down into whatever size threads you want. What makes this, I just think it's very attractive stuff to use aside from its strength. It's when you wet it and use it, it becomes translucent.
Yeah. You can see right through. Yeah.
If I've shot arrows into like a tree or something, and in fact, this is a good example of one that's hit a solid object, and you can see there's some cracks running along here. These arrows are copies of what the Powhatan Indians, I was told that what we call the Powhatan Indians, would utilize with these interchangeable tips. And this is, I'll describe, I guess, in a little bit.
Let's hold that again. All right, there. Okay, try that again, there.
It's a tapered fit. It fits in very snugly. If I hit a tree or something with this arrow, it drives this shaft up in. The tendon will not break. It actually crushes the wood, and then it cracks back here where it opens back up, but the tendon will not break.
Wow, strong stuff.
It's
strong stuff.
Probably the strongest cordage material, well, I shouldn't say it. I know spider web is tougher. But it's very, very strong.
Would this be an example of where you would have used, am I jumping too far ahead, or is this a
This
glue?
is a great deal for attaching things like this, because as it dries, it shrinks. And so it kind of like clamps it together tight.
Okay.
But this is pine sap on this to waterproof it. And then this, a friend of mine made this for me, and I believe this is sinew here, but I'm not positive. But I know this clear layer on top is some pine, some thinned down pine sap for waterproofing.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's see. Some of the we were talking about the utilization of the animal. We've talked about the hide. making glue, utilizing the brains in the tanning process. Let's talk some more about.
We've got an arrow tip here using an antler from a deer, and then this is also antler, which is utilized for reducing stone into tools like this. They'd use
That's strong enough to break down stone, huh?
it is. It's the perfect material for most stone reduction because it's just the right hardness, which is what is interesting is nature tends to have just the right thing instead of something trying to make do with.
Yeah.
This antler is perfect for it because it has just enough softness that the stone will sink into it a little bit, and then as the flake releases, it pushes back again.
I'll be done.
And so it works extremely well.
So that would have been used in doing in some of these chipping.
All this flaking here would be done by preparing an area and then striking. And one of the things, most people would think that if I wanted to pull a flake off the bottom here, that I would hit it in the direction I wanted the flake to come off.
Okay.
But in fact, shock hits a rock at a 90-degree angle. So if I wanted to take this area off right here, I would actually hit it almost straight up and down. In other words, I would strike it like this to get a flake to come off back here. You can see how large these flakes are.
Right.
There's only 3 flakes to come off here and here.
Now you can see how, the indentations there, that's how big the flakes were.
And I'm a big believer that natives would have done the same thing I'm trying to do here, and I'm hoping the finished product will split this line perfectly so it's kind of symmetrical.
Okay.
I found one that a native was working on, and he broke it, but he had a piece of jasper that had a clear vein right down the center. And it was really coming along well, and I can imagine if I had been there, I would have learned a few expletives in his tongue.
Yeah. Let's see, we've got a couple of minutes left.
We've got the hoof, which they would utilize for making rattles.
These are big deer hoofs.
And then this is the dew claws. They would make rattles. They would make decorations for clothing, and they could also cook this down to get neat's foot oil. And then a subject that I hope to do some research on. Some people believe that glue comes from hoof.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that you cannot get glue from hoof, and so I've actually been saving some to cook it down and see for myself, because I've read both. I've read that you can get glue from hoof. I've read that you can't get glue from hoof, but you do get gelatin and neat's foot oil when you cook it down. That I know.
Okay.
Well, and so the question is, how good of a glue would gelatin make?
Okay. So utilizing every part of the animal, the bones, antlers. We were talking that a variety of things with the antlers, using them as tools, and what else?
They could make sewing needles. They would use these tips for pushing flakes off. Almost every primitive find where they found a stone tool-making kit, they had antler or bone used for sharpening the stone tools. If a person had this with him and has it hafted, after use, just like our knives, it would start to get dull, and he would always carry a piece of antler or bone or copper to resharpen the edge. And so they would just reflake a sharp edge every time that it got dull.
And it's amazing how sharp these are. This is called, we'll talk more about this tomorrow, this material is called
Obsidian.
Obsidian, which comes out west. It comes from out west?
It's volcanic glass.
Okay. We'll be talking more about this tomorrow. I want to pass along Michael Sotosanti's number. He's at 635-9125 in Front Royal. And he'll be back with us tomorrow, and we're going to talk about more stuff and make a fire here and hope that the alarm doesn't go off. But primitive technologies and living skills. Michael Sotosanti, and he's a